Hey there, Sterile Processing Universe. It's Hank Balch. I'm back in studio, episode 3 here with Christian Abell. We're talking about H20 Now You Know, water quality in sterile processing. Episode 3, I kind of really pumped this up here, Christian, because we're going to talk about the problems with water. And that seems to be, I think, even more than the guidelines and the high level, like what is it, all the interesting facts. But people want to know, like, if it's causing me problems, why, what, and how do I get rid of it? So we're going to talk about some of those here. Let's start with common challenges. We wrapped episode 2. You kind of reference an experience that either a lot of us have had or at least seen on the news, and that's random brown stains on our instruments or on the tray liners especially. Talk us through from the water perspective with your water hat on. When you get that call, what's the first thing that you're thinking? And then when you get on site, what's the first thing that you do to start determining what's going on here?
Well, that's an interesting and very difficult question to answer. I tell you that I've seen different root causes from different parts of processes, and it's really understanding everything that's happening in that department to make sure that you're looking from a high level rather than just going to, well, this is what it was the last time, probably the same problem again. I mean, brown stains can be caused simply by people spraying surface disinfectants that are, phenol-based or something else that, when you put into a sterilizer, it turns brown. And you do it enough times, it gets sticky and stinky. And, those are different clues. But, the typical brown stains that you see on instruments most often are caused by either silicates in the water, and there's different bonding techniques, different parts of the process where you have to measure and understand what's happening, and the ability for once it attaches, it doesn't come off, or you have other various salts and metals that are deposited. Obviously, you can't see an ion sitting on an instrument. You put it in the sterilizer and it dries and vacuums and it pulls that residual. The question is it dangerous? Is it just water elements, or is it environmental factors such as detergents and carryovers? If it's there, do we care? Well, yeah, obviously, if it's there and I'm there and I'm looking at it for you, it's a problem. So it's a matter of identifying it and finding what part of the process and then dialing it in so that it gets eliminated. But, like I said, brown stains on instruments, if it's a silica base, you have a covalent bond, and these things don't come off without, a chemical reversal or a chemical reaction with, heat, in which case you can fix it, but there's no point in fixing it till you address the root cause or it just happens again.
So you got real science there with some covalent bonds that I have not heard since high school. So you're freaking me out a little bit. So let me ask you a little follow-up. Is this something typically, right? So the average sterile processing department, the average sterile processing manager who starts seeing this brown stain, they're making it to the OR is getting concerned, they're calling down saying what's going on. Is the average department equipped with the tools that they need to do an adequate root cause analysis? Or is this something that almost always needs folks from the outside like yourself, to come in and do these high-level tests that you alluded to?
Unfortunately, they're definitely not equipped. There's a lot of very expensive gear that I use in order to kind of figure out things in different parts of cycles. And you also have to know the science of everything happening. I mean, a washer cycle, just using that as an example, typically has a minimum of 6 processes. Your cold water rinse. Well, what does that water look like when it's getting exposed? And you have maybe a rinse in between all those, but typically cold water, you have an enzyme and you have a certain temperature, a certain water quality, what's happening there. Then you go to detergent, given water quality, heat, what is it doing there? Then you have a rinse, and then, is the rinse the same as the cold water rinse, or is there now a big delta? And that's kind of the data you have to pull out using loggers. And expensive measuring devices and software to go look at all that stuff, so you can really have a good snapshot of what's happening in the cycle and the influences of the chemical and the water at the given heat that you're using. And then when you bring in your great purified 0 microsiemen pharmaceutical grade water, well, why is everything still being stained? So if it's a silicate, it's already attached. Water's not going to rinse it off. It's a bond. And that's like all that kind of science stuff you don't really understand, because you can rinse it all you want for 10 hours with pharmaceutical grade water. It's not coming off. So it's a matter of stopping it in the middle of the cycle and identifying it. And it's not with any of the elements that you look at, and you just have to know and understand the science, because it could be irons, it could be phosphorus, it could be copper. And, chlorides are the big one that everyone knows about, because they're very, very, very quickly can cause very serious corrosion to an instrument and render it unsafe for many different reasons. So understanding that, it's not something they have, unfortunately. It's probably something way into the future that may be able to be built into the equipment so that it can monitor itself and help the managers monitor here's the basic 101s. If the machine's above 10 microsiemens during this part of the process, well, hit the panic button and get help. And it would be a more simple process, but that doesn't fully exist right now.
So going back to the word corrosion, I can tell you're using it in kind of a technical context, because you're comparing corrosion, to some other things that are happening to the instruments, like, such as just staining. So how would you differentiate corrosion from staining? What are the big differences there?
Well, and then there's offshoots to that question too. So
Okay.
Staining, obviously you have like a brown discoloration or something that's on the instrument and doesn't come off. You can have something that looks like corrosion that may just be something that was soluble in the water and it corroded on the surface of the instrument. It has nothing to do with the instrument. Iron's good at doing that. Where you see little brown dots on your instrument, you think the instrument, there's something wrong with the instrument. No, you had a piece of iron that oxidized and turned red, and you can remove it. Nothing's wrong with the instrument. And then you actually have things that cause corrosion, which is the metal, for this example, stainless steel, that is breaking down due to its interaction with that, let's say chloride.
Okay.
And, so it can manifest, a stain can manifest itself to look like a corrosion, and you can have actual...
that.
Well, like I said, if it's just on the surface, it's really a stain because it can be removed. But
Right.
Corrosion truly is the breakdown of the instrument.
So I want to come back on episode 4, and I want to talk about these conversations, but maybe more in the context of biofilm, because that's another saying that is on the instrument that shouldn't be there, and that water quality potentially has a part to play. And I'll let you explain if that's true or false. And then also, maybe if we have time, we can get back into this corrosion conversation around, hey, can this stuff spread? And then also, if you have any stories, from the field, you've been in the industry for many years now, you've seen a lot of things out there. I thought it might be helpful for folks to just kind of hear like a high level, anonymous kind of story about, hey, this is what happened. This was the process of how we figured out what was happening, and this is how we got it fixed. So let's try to roll that into the next episode. But for now, I want to thank everybody who tuned in for this episode. Hope you're enjoying the conversation of these quick hitting little nuggets of insight and education around water quality. And we hope we're inspiring you to think more, to ask more, to reach out with any other questions that you have to myself. If you reach out to me, I'm going to be reaching out to Christian. So maybe just reach out to Christian directly, and we'll have his contact info in the video description below. And like I keep reminding you, if you're not subscribed to this series yet, do so right now on the Beyond Clean channel. And as we remind you at the end of all these videos, keep fighting dirty.